And now for something completely different.
Forget everything you've been told by others before.
Because I've never heard anybody wake up in the morning and go, Cheerios are delicious. So,
Get ready for the real deal.
You know what my wife's favorite cereal is? Still to this day. And I'll catch her in like the closet, the pantry. Lucky Charms.
The full story.
Well, they are magically delicious.
They are magic, but she'll like go in and she doesn't eat cereal with like milk.
Yeah.
She just sticks her hand in the box, gets full of the Lucky snack. Yes.
The whole enchilada.
That's her snack. And it's her own box. Nobody will touch it because she sticks her hand in there.
It's money, news, and information you can use to grow financially healthy, wealthy, and wise.
I will disagree with Chad. They said don't go on credit to buy Girl Scout Thin Mint cookies. Totally disagree. That is a need. That is not a want.
Now, welcome in The Real Deal, the real investment show with Lance Roberts. Presented by RIA Advisors.
And good morning and welcome to the show. We are in the heart of it now. Today, tomorrow, Thursday, big mega cap earnings coming out. Meta, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, all report tomorrow. So it's going to be a very big day here over the next 2 days in particular. Also, we've got the Fed meeting that is coming up here very quickly. We'll have an announcement from them. So we got a lot of stuff that's going to potentially move the markets. Then we're going to start the month of May, which May and June tend to be okay months. In fact, if you read today's daily market commentary, we kind of go through the seasonal stats for May, the month of May. It's generally positive, not wildly so. June and July tend to do well. It's August and September that we really have to watch out for historically. That kind of is in that, we talk about the summer months being the seasonally weak period time of the year. Well, the vast majority of that weakness is in August and September. So markets are kind of in a good position for the moment, and earnings and profitability continue to do well. And right now we have an 84% beat rate so far with the companies that have reported. So, markets are responding accordingly. Markets rose up yesterday again, despite, kind of concerns about other stuff. Again, there's, as we talked about yesterday on the show, why, and our yesterday's show title was, why is the market ignoring the Strait of Hormuz? Because that is a problem. It's because of the strength of earnings and profitability right now. And at least that's taking front and center stage. Now, importantly, it's going to really depend on what Apple, Amazon, Meta, and Google say tomorrow. If they come out and report weak growth numbers, something like that, a cutback on data centers, this is a very different market very quickly. OpenAI just missed revenue, and the CFO was calling into question their $1.5 trillion worth of commitments. So, if that is an indicator of potentially what to expect from the other companies, we'll see. Or is OpenAI a one-off? Is Anthropic doing a whole lot better? We'll find out, kind of sooner rather than later. But again, if there's real weakness there, and it's not just a one-off, it's going to show up in these other companies. So it's at least worth paying attention to what happens here over the next couple of days. But right now, the markets don't expect that. As we've talked about recently, earnings, profitability, growth rates, those are continuing to increase here, which is, again, pretty phenomenal. We're having one of the fastest uptick in earnings expectations that we've seen historically and since like 2009 coming out of the financial crisis. So those upward revisions are very aggressive. And again, this is leading to a reduction in valuations in the markets. We've had a decent, an 18% reduction in valuations since the beginning of March. And so that's kind of helped give the market a little bit of breathing room here as well. So again, there's a lot of things that kind of hanging over the markets right now, certainly worth paying attention to. Consumer sentiment's weak. Savings rates are declining. Certainly concerns about high gas price. I filled up my truck yesterday. It was like $4.29 a gallon. Took out a small loan. But, yeah. No, that's regular. Yeah, it's. I guess you haven't filled your Miata up lately.
No, that's why I'm paying for premium.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, no. So.
At HEB.
Oh, at HEB. There you go. Cheap gas. Exactly. kind of. If you want premium speed, you need premium gas. That's all I'm saying. Exactly. Put a little airplane fuel in there, then you're ready to go.
Yeah, baby.
Anyway, So anyway, but high gas prices certainly weighing on the consumer. That's not, and that's not going to be surprising that we see that show up in the economy. So there's certainly some concerns. We should not dismiss those concerns. We should not dismiss those risks. But for right now, markets are continuing to do okay. And again, we haven't had a lot of economic data out this week. So far, we had Dallas Fed Manufacturing Index. It came in about as expected yesterday. So again, we don't have a lot to work with here so far this week. We'll have a lot tomorrow and Thursday to actually talk about. So let's talk about what you need to know about the markets this morning. So markets did rise up yesterday again, and set a new all-time high yesterday. The 20-day moving average has now crossed back above every single moving average. So we now have momentum back into the markets. We are overbought. We are extended. There's no doubt about that. And this kind of been a repetitive story here for the last few days, but this rally just kind of continues right now. But as we said, the steepness of the rally has started to really kind of flatten out. That's not surprising. So these gains are becoming a little bit harder to come by. Now this morning, futures are pointing a tad lower on the S&P and the NASDAQ. Dow futures are up. And this is kind of one thing that we are watching here over the last few days in particular. This is the S&P 500 equal weighted index, which has actually been declining here for the last 5 days. So this is that rotation from value to growth that we've been looking at the market. In other words, the breadth of the market is starting to become much more narrow. And again, it's being led by these tech companies really kind of driving the markets. NVIDIA hit an all-time high yesterday. So we're seeing that kind of push back into the growth side of the markets. That's being reflected here in this decline in the equal weighted index. So what we kind of want to see here, if this market's going to kind of continue to hold its footing, we would like to see this equal weighted index begin to firm up at least, if not start to offset some of this kind of push we've seen just recently in the NASDAQ in particular, because of that kind of narrowing of the breadth of the market. If we want this market to continue, we need a little bit broader breadth. So this is something at least worth paying attention to. On the other side of this, the dollar index just continues to kind of hold in here. We've seen this kind of sell-off of the dollar. We got back above 100. It's pulled back here a bit, starting to rally a bit, about to trigger a buy signal on the dollar. So if the dollar strengthens up here as well, that's going to be a negative for commodity-related positions. Dollars, stronger dollar, weaker commodities in general. So kind of watch this dollar trade. If this signal kicks into place here and we are not overbought yet, and we clear these moving averages, it's probably going to push back up towards 100. That could pull some of the wind out of commodities in the short term or dollar-related trades because of the strength of the dollar. So kind of keep a watch on that. If you've got a lot of commodity exposure, et cetera, stronger dollar is going to be kind of start hampering that here just a bit. Outside of that, the kind of the one thing is that we continue to watch is energy prices. This is XLE, which has been, this is the energy stock kind of ETF. It's been actually increasing here, about to trigger a sell signal, a crossover between the 20-day and the 50-day moving average, but about to trigger a short-term buy signal. We added some ExxonMobil to our portfolio here recently. I think we're about to get set up here at least on a reversal trade, just kind of momentarily. We got pretty oversold on this kind of sell-off in energy stocks as energy prices fell, but energy prices creeping back up towards 100. We may see a little bit better performance out of energy. That'll also help that equal weighted index by starting to broaden out kind of the market participation. So kind of watch that here over the next few days. That'll be at least kind of worth watching. Again, crude creeping up here to $100 a barrel this morning. We're at $99.84 right now, about to trigger a buy signal on oil prices as well. So if we do get a lift in oil prices back above 100, that should start to kind of pull energy stocks back up in portfolios after that recent correction. Anyway, that's what you need to know before the bell this morning. We're going to come back, pick up with Jon Penn talking about financial cheating this morning. Don't go away.
Get daily investment news you can use, delivered at the speed of the internet at realinvestmentadvice.com.
Feeling overwhelmed by scattered accounts, paperwork or not knowing where everything stands financially.
Uh-oh. Sounds like somebody's got a case of the Mondays.
Our next Candid Coffee will walk you through practical, real-world strategies to get organized and take control of your financial life. It's Saturday, May 16th.
Danny Ratliff and Jonathan McCarty show how to consolidate and simplify financial accounts,
Documents you actually need and what you don't.
plus easy systems for tracking income, expenses, and goals.
Fine-tune your system. Join this Candid Coffee for actionable ideas.
Reduce stress and improve clarity around your finances.
Register for our next Candid Coffee, Saturday, May 16th.
At realinvestmentadvice.com.
realinvestmentadvice.com.
You're listening to The Real Investment Show.
And good morning and welcome to Two Dads on Money. Good morning, John. How are you?
Good. Good morning. How are you?
Oh, it's Tuesday.
It is Tuesday. Yes, it is.
So my wife today, she's all excited, right? So the company she works for, they have a private jet, and so she's getting to fly on the private jet this
very
morning.
cool.
Yeah. They're going out to Reno, Nevada. They're bidding on a data center out there, so she gets to fly out there. So she was up very early this morning, getting dressed because the plane left very early this morning at the airport. So I've been up for a long time already this
You're
morning.
up even earlier than normal.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so she was excited, so she didn't sleep much, and of course she woke me up. So there you go.
Very good.
Anyway, so if I doze off here during the show, just pay attention to John. He's got all the comments anyway. So anyway, talking a little bit about this more. I've gotten a few emails here lately, in particular, and then I found an article that I sent to John to kind of discuss this morning. There's a couple of things that occur in, marriages, relationships. I saw an interesting stat this morning that more people than ever before in history are now just cohabitating. They're not getting married.
Not getting married.
Right, but that's the same thing. If you're living together, it's the same as being married, and just because you're living together doesn't mean that the behaviorals change, the behavior changes, or that the responsibilities don't change, especially when it comes to money. And one of the things that I've gotten a lot of emails lately about, I don't know why, just lately too, it's been like the last month. I've gotten several emails from people asking about, kind of financial conflict between, I'm trying to get our finances, kind of in order here. I'm trying to invest and save, and my spouse is, and it's both ways, right? This is not man versus woman or husband versus wife or whatever. It goes both ways in relationships. But I'm trying to do these things to get our financial position into a better place so we can buy a house, so we can buy a car, so we do this. And my spouse is doing entirely different stuff, and we are not on the same page. And getting on the same page can be very difficult, and it takes some work. I mean, it really takes communication. You've got to sit down and talk to your spouse. You've really got to be open about finances. I bought my wife this book called Finances for Dummies. And
Did she throw it at you?
No. I paid for it. She picked it out. So we went and had brunch, and we went to Barnes and Noble, and she because she wants to learn more about managing finances. So we bought two books, right? One, Finances for Dummies, and Trading for Dummies, so she can learn more about how markets work and those type of things. And it was interesting because she's reading this book, and we have some cash sitting in an account at JP Morgan that I use to make investments with and do stuff that we have. And she's like, we need to move that to this book says we need to move that to a high yield savings account. So she's in the process of taking those controls. And I'm so proud of that. That's really awesome that she's, now, taking more responsibility, getting involved, starting to understand, what's important and what's not. But I'm like, 15 years next month in this marriage, and we're just now getting to that part. But
congratulations!
I know it's taken a long time.
Yeah.
But this is opened up a whole new level of communication between her and I to talk about money.
Yeah.
Because more, for the first 15 years of marriage, it's like, you take care of it, you know what you're doing. I'm just going to go do my thing over here. Which was fine. It worked great. We have a very good balance of how we work. We have an account that we live out of. We have accounts that we invest with. But now she's getting more actively involved, which is fantastic because I'm not going to be around forever. And I need her to be in a position to take care of monies when I'm no longer here.
So so many points that you were talking through there resonate with me because, and a lot of it all comes down to the communication aspect, and that you have a very open dialogue with your wife about money and finance. And as much as I was kidding about the book, I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, I didn't name the book.
That's
just the name of the book.
That's just the name of the book. But I think it's wonderful that you're both equally, that you're both engaged with this, because I see it a lot. It's not uncommon with with a married couple or just significant others, where one spends a lot more time in the finances and gets down into the weeds on the financial side more than the other. And this one over here, maybe the other spouse or the other significant other, either just takes no interest in it, or they'll handle it. Lance will handle it, or in my case, Shauna, John will handle it. But heaven forbid, if something happens to me, I need to make sure that Shauna knows where everything is.
Yep.
Maybe she doesn't need to fully understand 100% of everything, like why do we own this or this investment or what have you. I want her to have a good idea, but heaven forbid, if something should happen to me, I want her to be able to feel comfortable with what we have and just kind of keep the ball running, or take the ball and keep running. But I think it's great that you have a very open dialogue with your spouse, and my wife and I do too. And I think that's the key part of this, where we sit down and we actually talk about this stuff. And if there's something that I'm frustrated with, then we talk about it. If there's something that she's frustrated with, trust me, we talk about it, right? And I found it, in the article that you shared with me, I found it really interesting about, the financial secrecy and kind of what leads these financial secrets that maybe we all keep, and how maybe they seem somewhat small when they start off, but they can kind of grow and balloon into these big events that can really rock a family, right? Yeah. I mean, one extreme in the article was that a spouse hired a forensic accountant.
If you're to that point in your relationship that you're hiring a forensic accountant, you've got other issues.
So a forensic accountant that figured out the husband was spending $20,000 a month supporting another family. That the
secret family.
The secret family. And I will tell you this right now. If that happened, there would not be a divorce.
Oh, no.
There would be a death. I'd just be gone.
Yeah,
you would see Shauna. She'd be like, how's John doing? John who? Huh?
Exactly.
What?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, that's a real extreme here, right? But this exists out there.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Right. I have enough. It takes all my time to keep up with my current family. How on earth do people keep up with two families? That just fascinates me just to an extreme, especially those people like two entirely different families. I don't have that kind of time commitment. That's just or energy.
Yeah, I don't have the time or the energy. Or look, right now I'm a conduit. Money comes in, it goes out. Dad's just trying to gather nickels and dimes as it comes through, right? So
exactly.
It's like I'm just trying to keep up with what I've got, let alone support maybe another family over here off the side. But a lot of this, I think a lot of this, it just comes down to the communication aspect of things. And even with couples that I visit with now, when it comes to look at their financial planning, I really want both spouses there. Yeah. In those meetings and again, one typically gets down into the weeds a little bit more than the other, but the other, and this could be, it doesn't matter if it's husband, wife, it could be either. There are many relationships that I work with where the wife is the one getting down to the weeds with the finances and controls everything from a financial aspect, and the husband is there because he wants to make sure he has an understanding of where everything is, and if something should happen to her, who should he reach out to and call? I mean, this works both ways, right? But I want both there so we can talk through this stuff and both parties know exactly what they have, where it is, and what does their financial picture look like. And it's not uncommon today, even with very healthy married couples or couples that aren't married, and maybe there's just significant others, where there's a pool of assets that they work out of together and that they share. But each has their somewhat kind of fun money.
Yep.
This is hers, this is his, and whatever they do with it, that's their fun money, and there's no judgment over here. But both are aware that this fun money exists, and and what it can be used for.
No, this is. I think this is a fantastic point because this is my wife and I are second marriages.
Yeah.
Right. So she had a marriage and I had a marriage. Both of our ex-spouses were absolutely terrible with money. And so there were some coming into our current marriage, right? We were very reluctant about the other spouse, just till we learned each other and how we work, very kind of skittish about finances early on. And just because you don't know, exactly where everybody is on the same page. And so, but, what was important to me is that she had independence. And that was, one of the things that was important to her was having some control, some independence. And so what we did was the way we structured everything is that I managed the investment accounts. And so we have a pool of accounts that are our investment accounts, and that's what we do our hard money lending. That's what we do our stock investments, all those type of things with. That I manage that. Then we have our normal kind of income that we bring in, our W-2 incomes, right? That goes into a joint account. And from that joint account, she can spend whatever she wants, and we have a budget, and every paycheck, a chunk of money gets automatically transferred over to savings, so it's gone, so she knows that she can spend everything that's left over in that joint account. So we call that a zero-based budget. We know what our bills are. Savings get paid up front. We pay ourselves first, very important, and then she can then spend everything else in that account. So she runs the household, she takes care of the kids, she does all of that type of stuff. She also works a full-time job that she gets bonuses from. So she does her job, her W-2 income comes into the account. Her bonuses go into her own account. And that is her fun money, right? That's where she takes the kids, she takes our daughters to go do hair and nails and those type of things. Or if she wants to buy a new outfit, that comes from that. And I have no say what she does with that money. That is her own money. But what was important about that was that it gave her that sense of independence. And it alleviated a lot of concerns about who's controlling what. And again, for both people in a relationship, whether you're just living together or married, it is about having some control, right? And some of the biggest problems that I see cropping up when people are kind of starting to push towards divorce, we've talked about before, the two biggest contributors to divorce are infidelity, that's number one, and finances are number two. Yeah. And the problem is if you're having trouble with finances, you're probably going to get the infidelity at some point, right? If you're always fighting about money, somebody's going to start, needing a release, right? And and the infidelity shows up. So if you don't solve number two, number one's going to come along. And
feeds off each other.
Yeah, they do. So really, those are very, very important relationships to understand. And so if you take away control from somebody, it's like, I'm handling all the money, you don't have any say, you're going to start breeding trouble in finances because people need to have, co-responsibility in how the household is run and how finances work. And that's one of the things that I've seen repeatedly show up over time is that I don't have any ability to have control over anything. I can't spend anything. He controls everything or she controls everything, however it is. And that leads to as many problems as just not having money in a lot of cases.
Yeah, and I see, and this makes sense, I guess, as I'm thinking about it and kind of talking out loud at the same time. I see more conflict or struggle or stress between, couples, and that from a finance standpoint, that can lead to divorce as they are older. It's kind of what they call a quote unquote gray divorce. The divorce rate for folks that are 50 plus, anywhere from 50, 55 to 65 years young, as I like to say, that divorce rate has significantly increased compared to that of divorce of younger couples, right? Because maybe as we age, now, or as if we've been married now, maybe, so my wife and I, Shauna and I, will be celebrating 29 years this year, right? Well, she's put up with me for that long, and I just listen to everything she says. But in case you're listening this morning, hon. But anyway, but we have open conversations about a lot of things, right? And in no way is our marriage perfect. Trust me. I mean, we've had our own issues that we've had to talk through and deal with. I mean, it's just kind of part of life. But I also see stress and anxiety come between, older individuals, 50, 55, 60, 65. I mean, it's not uncommon for me to see folks that are been married for 20 or 30 years, maybe 35, 40 years, and all of a sudden they just decide to go separate ways.
Yep.
And they might be 65 years young, 70, and that can be a very eye-opening experience where you kind of feel like you're having to start your life all over again, right? Because you got to you have to separate all these assets, and then once you go through the divorce, you have to make sure your estate planning is set up and everything, and go back to your budget and just make sure you've got enough assets to survive. But it's just very interesting that I see divorce more prevalent with older folks versus the younger generation. Maybe they just haven't lived together long enough yet. Who knows, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But I think that communication aspect is key, and I found it very interesting in the article that you shared that even so, financial infidelity could even be like gaming or betting or sports apps, and it could just
which I think is going to be a huge upcoming problem. I don't think we realize how big of a problem these betting markets are. And again, we don't call them gambling anymore, right? We now have softened that term. They're called prediction markets, right? So Kalshi and Poly markets, I don't think we've yet seen. Well, we haven't because they're too new. But I think that we're going to see a lot more stories in the very near future about how one spouse in a relationship basically gambled the entire money, family's money away on Poly market or on Kalshi, on betting on stuff. And that's going to become a lot more fun. As I said, if I could make an investment bet today, I would invest in Gamblers Anonymous because I think that's going to be a huge. I think they're going to have a huge explosion of membership requests in the next few years. But that's going to become. Gambling's always been a problem. But we've seen that in numerous occasions. Where the husband has gambled away a big chunk of the family assets, et cetera. We know those stories. Yeah. And that's going to get ultimately a lot worse, I think, because of what we're seeing in these prediction markets, which is nothing more than just legalized gambling. But that's all it is. But this is going to be part of that. That problem we're going to feed into is this financial cheating, right? How do we cheat financially on our spouses and hiding assets, hiding accounts, doing things that our spouse doesn't know about one way or the other. I mean, those are going to lead to a much higher rate of divorce in the future than we probably even have now.
Well, yeah, because you think about it, if you're in a relationship with somebody, and if you're the one who is you know what your assets are, liabilities, you've got your inventory of your investments, and then all of a sudden you get a surprise, or you do some research, or you find out that maybe there's all this other debt that you weren't aware of, right? How would that make you feel?
Right.
I could see how that would totally just create conflict between a marriage, and I think maybe this debt can start off very small, it won't be a big deal, but then it can kind of snowball in itself, maybe even just like gambling or online betting or what have you. And look, I'm not talking down about online betting or gambling. I mean, I'm sure within moderation. I'm sure it. As long as you control it and it doesn't control you, and it's not a dry. Hey, if it's just a little something off to the side that you do, and you have just like when Lance and I are here and we're talking about investing and having guardrails around your own investment philosophy, stocks, bonds, exchange traded funds, et cetera. You need to make sure you have guardrails around your betting and your kind of the gambling that you do. And if it's all in fun, that's great. But if it starts to spiral out of control and you see where it could impede or get in between your family, but you got to speak up about it.
Right, exactly. But see, therein lies the trap, right?
Yeah.
Which is, and it's like anything, right? It's drugs, it's alcohol. It's like, I can quit anytime I want. Okay, well then quit.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to quit. Okay. And that's when you're in the trap. And that's the way this stuff starts out. It's complete. All this stuff is completely innocent. It's new. It's neat right now, right? I can go bet on anything, right?
Yeah.
What's going to happen? What's going to be the record high temperature today, right? I can bet on that. It's all fine and dandy, and as long as I can control that and just say, okay, I'm going to make a bet here, and then I'm done with it, and I can walk away from it. That's fine. And there are people that can do that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people
that can't.
They can't. And once they get into that trap, it's like, okay. I'm just going to bet this one more time, and if I can win everything back that I lost, then I'll be done with it. But of course, I see that in the stock market all the time. I remember clearly back in the 2000 crash with Cisco Systems. Cisco was trading around $80 a share, and the stock started dropping as we got to the .com crash. And I would get emails from people kind of panicking over, because we had clients that worked at Cisco Systems at the time and other stuff, and so they'd be calling and going, "Oh, what am I supposed to do?" I was like, "Well, maybe just sell it and get out. And we come back to it later." It's like, "Oh, well, no, but I'll tell you what. As soon as it comes back some, then I'll sell it and get out, and then the stock drops more. Okay, well, if I can get back to where I was, then I'll get out." And see, now you're in the trap. And then it got down to like $10 a share. It's like, okay, well, God, please just, let me get out of this, and I'll never invest again. And there's the old saying about foxholes, which is, it's where you find religion. You find that in the stock market too. When things go wrong, or you get yourself into a whole lot of debt, you'll find religion pretty quick, trying to get your way out of trouble. But the problem is recognizing the problem there. And unfortunately, by the time that you get to that point, you've destroyed whatever relationship you have.
Yeah,
right.
And so like I love the poll this morning too, where we're asking about what's the biggest financial risk in marriage, and I'm not surprised to see 78% of folks who responded. Thank you, chat. 78% lack of communication. So we know lack of communication is an issue.
Right.
But then, are we willing to actually talk about this stuff with our significant others, with our spouses, with our families, so that we can, avoid, this separation at some point, right?
Well, and this is fine. Look, this is hard to do.
It is,
and it's what a lot of people don't want to do. But it's important that you sit down once a month. Just have a financial meeting, right? Just sit down with your spouse and go, pay the bills together. Simple things, because once you start getting involved in the process, if you're one of the spouses that are not involved in the process, then you don't know where the money's going. And if you don't know where the money's going, then you start having questions, and those questions start creating mistrust, because it's like, well, why don't we have any money? It's like, well, have you seen the water bill this month? It's like $600 this month for the water bill. There's no way the water bill's that much, right? But it is. And because you live in Houston, and you have rain tax. When you don't know, right, you start getting questions, and those questions remain silent up front, because you're just like, I don't understand why we don't have any money all the time, and why are we always out of money? And then that brings up more questions, and then you start having mistrust. And then by the time you get to that point, you're really kind of getting too far down the road. And this is starting to that starts to bring in all these financial cheating, things that people do, like I go shopping and I hide the bags in the back of my car and I don't bring them in until the spouse is gone. Have secret credit cards. That's a big one. Secret bank accounts is another big one.
Yeah.
All those type of things. That's cheating. That's infidelity. That's just a different form of infidelity in the relationship, because the whole thing about infidelity is you're breaking trust, right? I'm having a relationship with another person. Well, why? That's infidelity, and that's breaking the trust you have with the person you're supposed to be married to. But cheating financially is the same thing as infidelity, because you're cheating on your spouse, right? And you're not on the same page. And let me just tell you, if you have those kind of problems, solve them. Because once you solve those problems, life gets really, really easy with your spouse. It gets really simplistic, because everybody's on the same page, everybody trusts each other, everybody just does what they do, because what everybody else, what your spouse is doing, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you trust each other. Life gets really simple, and you stop having a lot of these arguments you were having. When you trace them back to the root of something, it was about money at some point. Most of the time, it's about money. It's some form or fashion, somewhere in that layer of conversation that you're having, that disagreement with your spouse, there's money involved. You solve that money problem, which it takes work, right? It takes work, it takes communication, it takes some practice. But once you get to that point, life gets really simple. And like my wife and I, we're just down to that very basic issue now. And if one of us gets out of line, the other one just yells, half! Because that means in divorce, she gets the other half. So it's just immediate. It's immediate. You just say the word half, and everybody calms down and gets back to doing what they're supposed to do. So, it's just a very easy way to live once you can solve that one problem. If you can solve one problem in your marriage, that's it. The love part's easy, right? You solve the finance part, that makes your life really easy.
Yeah, and I would say is too, if there's and starting off to maybe kind of break the ice or having those conversations where if there's one spouse that maybe suspects or is suspicious about maybe some financial activity that's going on, hopefully if you ask your spouse, hey, I'm curious, I want to learn more about this, hopefully your spouse is open and doesn't start questioning, why are you asking? And
well, if they are negative up front,
Yeah.
like, why are you asking?
That's a red flag.
It's a red flag, right? It means that there's something going on that probably shouldn't be going on. And so the hard part is going to be able to open up that conversation and say, look, whatever's happened, I don't care, right? But we just need to start having these conversations. So, because we listen to these two jackasses on the YouTube channel that said we need to do this.
That's right.
Blame it on us. We'll
John
take the blame.
said that we need to talk.
Exactly. But just start with the clean slate. And it's okay. Whatever's happened, and no judgment, no nothing. But let's get on the same page here so we can grow financially. Because if you can grow financially, all these other problems go away. There's the old saying. It's like, well, I love it when people say money can't buy happiness. That's a true statement, but that's normally from people that are in financial trouble that say that. Because money doesn't buy happiness, but it buys a whole lot of whatever comes in second. And that's what helps you be happy. If you're not stressed about money, happiness is a lot easier to get to financially, right? And emotionally and everything else, because you're pulling a big stress. Once you get your financial side straightened out, it pulls a whole emotional drag off your relationship so you can focus on being happier with your spouse and focusing on things that make them happy, and then they can spend time focusing on things that make you happy, and then that just makes life better. But if you're always fighting about finances, that's the hard part. So, but John, to your point, the hardest thing is just getting the conversation. If you're just getting together, and look, we're having these conversations with our kids now.
Yeah.
Start this out early. I'm going to before any of my kids get married, they are going to financial counseling.
That's a great idea.
And I'm going to send them to a counselor to talk about money and get them on the same page. Because that's where most things start. Up front, early in the relationship, that's where bad habits start. But you can talk, if you talk those things out and build some baselines around it, you can have a huge leg on that whole problem going forward and get everybody on the same page. So choosing the right spouse is also a good choice.
Yeah.
But again, getting those conversations started, it's going to be painful, but you just have to go through it. You're just going to have to put up with the fight to start with, get down there, get dirty, kind of get the process started. But once you can get over that initial hump, right? And get the books on the table, pay bills together, right? Dave Ramsey has a system called the envelope method.
Yeah.
Which is, if you're having financial difficulty, this is a great tool. It's a pain in the ass to use, but it's really, really good, is to cash your paychecks, put it all into envelopes and pay everything in cash, right? Go get a money order to pay your rent. Go get a money order to pay your electric bill, whatever it is. But having to pay it out of envelopes, everybody knows where every dollar is going to. And when you go, well, I don't see how we're paying $600 on the water bill. Well, here's the bill.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. $600 got to go to that. So where are you going to get the other $300 that you wanted for, A, B, or C? That helps you, like I said, it's a real pain because you've got to go get money orders and other stuff. But if you've got to get down to that level to get everybody on the same page, it's worth the effort. Because once everybody understands where the money goes, then conversations become a whole lot easier.
Yeah, I call those conversations the real meeting between significant others or spouses, and even when I'm visiting with a married couple and we're going through financial plans. And look, that doesn't mean that the meetings that I'm having with everybody are always like everybody's like both parties are in agreement.
Right.
But I like it when both parties are there so we can kind of see everything and put everything out on the table. And there are times where the real meeting happens right there. Right? And I'm in it. I'm like,
referee.
I'm just like, so y'all can go have the real meeting and you talk about this so we can come back and get together. And it's just like the real meeting just happens right there. And I'm like, all right, well, let me go pop some popcorn and I'll be right back. But seriously, but if you're finding issues with kind of breaking the ice or if having these conversations, if you find they're just not going anywhere either, go to a trusted third party, whether if it's a friend or another family member that you trust completely, or
professional counselor,
or a fiduciary, right? just to sit down and say, I think we've got some issues going on. We just need to come to the table, hey, and be in an environment where there's no judgment, right? And just put it all out there to see if you can resolve this, because, you know, and in chat, and thank you, chat. You're being so, I mean, as always, you're very involved and engaged, and I appreciate everything that you guys are saying. It's already, I can't scroll fast enough right now, but you know, one of you mentioned that you see it in your neighborhood that when kids get older and they graduate college, all of a sudden couples are separating.
Yep.
It's like they just live together long enough
Get the kids out of the house.
to get the kids out of the house.
Yep.
Well, I mean, I love our daughters, but no offense, I'm kind of looking forward to being an empty nester with my spouse.
Oh yeah.
Right, I'm ready for that.
My wife and I are living that now, and it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I see it, and I see it too, where a lot of folks, they just want to stay together for the sake of the kids, and I get it. I get it, because you want to make sure that you take care of your children. But I also see that, the more that folks, there's separation out there. And look, there are some times where, marriage just isn't going to work. Mm-hmm. It's okay. You try, you put forth the effort, and sometimes it just doesn't work.
Yep.
But then
Marriage is hard.
Marriage is hard.
Yeah.
It is not easy. And trust me, it ain't all roses at my place. Look, it is.
There's some tombstones.
There are, mine's already out in the backyard. I'm teasing you.
I'm not.
But oh my gosh, but it is work, right? But I think communication is the key, and you hit it so much. As we're getting together, and there's, I see a lot of divorce and separation with older folks, but there are a lot of young adults that I'm visiting with now too, or young adults I see that are getting married. Our oldest daughter's getting married next year. And so now we are having very open discussions about, what is she bringing to the marriage financially? Mm-hmm. What is he bringing to the marriage financially? And there's a lot of discussions that right now, a lot of openness. Mm-hmm. And do we need to look at some sort, and I hate to say it, but do we need to look at some sort of a prenuptial agreement, mm-hmm. right? As hard as that sounds. But at least we're having these open conversations around what is our daughter bringing to the table, and what is he bringing to the table.
Yeah.
Making sure that at a young age and a very early stage in their life that they are, both our daughter and her fiance are there, and again, they're very open with each other about money. They talk about money and finance all the time. They talk about it with us all the time. We have a lot of money talks right now with our kids. It's a very healthy conversation. But I think there are younger couples getting married, or who are engaged to be married, or thinking about getting married, and to your point, you need to start having those conversations right then and there.
Yep. Yeah, and you do, because the habits that kids pull financially come from their parents.
Come from mom and dad.
Right.
Sure.
Because they see how their mom and dad handled things, how mom and dad talked about money, who did what. And that gets pulled into, that's the way they think things should be done. That's the way they were raised up. So
right.
It's very important to have these conversations. Look, breaking any bad habit or bad cycle is difficult, but finances are almost a hereditary problem, right? Because it just passes from one generation to the next. And we look at all these stories about the K-shaped economy. Now, everybody in chat right now, you guys are heavily involved into finance.
Yeah.
Y'all are investing all the time. You're doing all the right things. So probably stuff that we're talking about right now doesn't maybe apply to you in a lot of cases. But, we talk about this K-shaped economy. 10% of the economy owns, 80% of the assets. The bottom 50% own no assets, basically. And they're just struggling to get by paycheck to paycheck. And a lot of that is due to just this hereditary transition of bad financial habits from one generation to the next. And we just passed that down. And so if you want to help bring up your next generation so they're not in the bottom 50%, teach them teach them some basic money habits, how to invest, how to get some money into a Roth IRA and start growing that at a young age. All those things that we talk about, you can break that cycle and you can create a new generation of wealthier kids. The problem is that we talked about before, we don't teach it in school.
Right.
We don't teach it at home.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people are trying to figure this out, and then they're inundated with all this stuff from social media and banks, hey, here's a credit card, and we get them into just more and more financial debt, more and more financial habits, and then that leads to financial cheating and the and that's why we got 50% divorce rates.
Yeah, yeah.
It just snowballs.
It snowballs. It really does. I mean, I know there are ways that I handle finances based upon how I was influenced by my mom and dad, right? You know, I know there are ways that my wife handles finances being with the influence that she had with her parents, right? I mean, it definitely kind of rolls downhill, right? And sometimes, and I will tell you, with kids, sometimes they may not ask mom and dad a lot of questions, but they'll watch you, and they see how you handle and how you react to different financial situations,
right.
and they really watch and look at that behavior, and they absorb it like a sponge, even though they may not be talking about it much, but they watch every move you make.
Yeah.
Right?
No, like I saw the other day, one of my kids was talking to his girlfriend, and she's like, "Let's go get some coffee." He says, "We have coffee at home." I was like, yeah.
I can make a better cup of coffee around here than anybody else anyway. So.
I was like, yeah, because he got that from home. So that's
right. Yeah.
But again, this is, and again, I think one of the biggest things that changed, my marriage with Christina is just getting her involved and saying, here's all our assets.
Yeah.
Here's all our investments. Here's this. Here's our bank account. Here's where this goes.
Yeah.
She pays all the bills.
Yeah.
I honestly, sometimes I like, why did you just give $600 to the city of Houston? That's the water bill, honey. Oh, okay. And I ask her that question every month. I'm like, what's this bill? It's the water bill, honey.
I'm amazed at how much water we go through too.
I
look at the report and I'm just like, there is no way that can be right.
I agree with you, and I think it's all a scam.
Like, how?
And so I thought I had a water leak, honestly, and
Yeah.
I called the city out to check to see if I had a water leak. I thought maybe the the sprinkler system was leaking or something.
Yeah.
And then I went and talked to all my neighbors on the street. Every one of them same bill.
Really? Okay.
Every single one of them.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just that's the city of Houston.
Yeah.
So, but the point is that she handles the bills, she runs the household. That's her domain. I handle the investment side. That's my domain. But we sit down and talk about what's going on together.
Yeah.
And that is the most critical aspect of kind of making that thing work.
I agree. Shauna and I are the same way. That doesn't mean that every time we visit or talk about finances that it always goes smooth. There's definitely my thoughts and her thoughts, but then we come together and we work on it together, right? Because that's what it's an equal. I view this as an equal partnership, right? And I think sometimes with couples, if one spouse is maybe a lower income earning, like a lower wage earner than the other, sometimes you get a little bit of this, right? In my opinion, no matter what your significant other or your spouse is earning, it all adds up.
Yeah.
And it all helps.
Absolutely.
Right? So, but I think it's
the key is not to spend more than you make.
That's it too.
And then not increase your spending when you get raises.
Yeah. True.
Yeah. And that's lifestyle creep is one of the worst facets of, you could actually throw that into the cheating pool. Right? Is this lifestyle creep? Oh, I got a raise, so I'm going to start buying nicer clothes, or I'm going to start doing this, or I'm going to start doing that. You're cheating on yourself at that point.
Yeah, and lifestyle creep can sometimes be very intentional, and I think it can be a little bit of a byproduct of just the society today, because everything is online now. Right, because apps and everything else is just very easy. Everything is so digital. Like kind of going back to that the Dave Ramsey, the envelope system. That's an old school way to know exactly here's what I have coming in and here's what's going out, and I know how much I have left before no more can go out. It's like with all of this digital society that we live in, it's just very easy to rack up all of these other payments, and all of a sudden it's like you don't even know where your money's going.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's some of it too.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And again, you have subscriptions for everything.
Yeah.
We've talked about that before. Go get something like Rocket Money and plug all your bills into it and let it run. It'll look for subscriptions that you're not using. And once you start seeing all the things that you pay for, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and maybe have that exercise, do that with your spouse or your significant other. Start looking at all those bills together, right? Because then you can really figure out, okay, where's your money going? Who's paying for what? And are there things that you can cut out of the budget? But make that a joint process if you can.
Yep, that's right. All right, look, we went a little bit long today, so hope that helps. And be sure and like and subscribe to the channel very much. John, appreciate your time today. Get by the website, realinvestmentadvice.com. And while you're there, there's an Ask a Question button right on the homepage. Send us topics for the show, things that you want to hear about. We're happy to talk about it with you. Just send us your emails, and we get some really great emails from you guys, so we really appreciate it very much. But again, hit that like button for us as well. It helps us keep the show here going and growing, and that's been growing well because of you, and we do appreciate it. All right, we'll see you back here tomorrow for live Q&A with Danny Ratliff. We'll talk about markets, money, anything you want to talk about tomorrow. It's your day right here on The Real Investment Show. See you then.